Good morning, friends. How are you? I hope you're having a great holiday weekend. We are in my office. This is where I come to read or have my devotions. Um, I'm a book reader, obviously. You can see back there. So, one of the things my mom used to tell me when we were talking about college and school was one thing they can never take away from you is your knowledge. So I've always been an avid reader, studier. I'm also a list maker. I've read studies where if you write things down, you remember them better. So sometimes my comprehension on reading isn't what it used to be, and I write things down and then I make lists and I go that way. But I'm a huge reader. And yesterday, when I was thinking about going out and that you planned for 3 months 4 months to go out on Memorial Day weekend and start your garden, and it's 40 degrees that night. What do you do? Do you, your peppers, your tomatoes, they'll be fine if you put them out there, but it's going to stun them. So rather than do that, I spent the day being my husband's assistant in the kitchen remodel. And it was a great day of fellowship for us. That's one place we never ever fuss. We get along great. We've remodeled 4 houses together, so we do that pretty well. But it did give him a little boost as far as having someone there to help him, and he's getting things done a little faster, which makes me happy because I can't wait to have my new kitchen. As you can see from this room, my house is all circa 1979, complete with the dark paneling. So super excited about the kitchen. So one of the things that I do when I I can't get out there, I want to. I see all these YouTube videos and all of these Facebook posts of all these people with their beautiful lush plants and look how great my garden's doing and mine's still sitting in the high tunnel. And that can be discouraging. But what I will tell you is you do you, boo. I have no idea what that saying means. My nickname was Boo. And so what I want to encourage you to do is just to do you, just to be you. Don't compare yourself to others because now, as I'm getting on social media, I'm seeing people have things that have gotten frost on them and they're losing plants, they're losing fruits. And then there's also people like me who are tapping their toes, looking out the door, going, when can I come out and play? So one of the things I do when I can't go out and play, which is me today, is I study and I read. And I pick a topic and I really hone in on it for a while. And then if it starts to get to be too much, I move to something else. Or if we have a project coming, like I really want sheep, then I'll start studying about sheep because I want to know everything there is to know about raising sheep before I make that commitment. I think that's important to do. I don't think that it is fair to the sheep for me to just run out and buy them and then get the book. I don't think it's fair to me to do that because then I set myself up for unrealistic expectations. That's not cool. So I thought I would show you some of my favorite books. Um, my husband is a blacksmith. He does woodworking. He is a jack of all trades, and he is the master of all. He is our go-to for everything. The boys and I have really, and the girls, we all just he can work on any car. He can do just about anything. And when you have somebody like that in your life who has that much information, I encourage you now to be that sponge that just sucks it all up. Because if I had been able to do that longer with my granny, I'd be a lot further along than reading a bunch of books. I would have that hands on out there with her and that time, that precious time that you get from doing something like that and learning from someone like that. So I encourage you to do that. I am a quilter. I'm a gardener. I'm somewhat of an herbalist, self-proclaimed. I'm not by any means accredited or haven't gone to schooling for it, just my books back here. But I do make a lot of our tinctures, a lot of our herbs. I make salves. I make candles, I make soaps, I make infused oils, I dehydrate our herbs. I I was the original chicken person. I think my husband's kind of taken a lot of that on because he's having a lot of fun with that now that he's retired. And he has the bees, he has the goats, he has the rabbits. I will have sheep. I will have sheep. It's just a matter of when. Just a matter of when. Hold tight. We'll get there. So, oh, that was nice. One of the first set of books I want to show you is, let me move this mouse, that other computer screen actually helped with our lighting some. So I will show you two of my go-to books for canning. And this is the one that everyone uses. This is the Ball Book of Home Preserving. And this is great for your times, whether to pressure can, whether to water bath, and those kinds of things. And there's some good recipes in there. I use a few of them, but I'm a rule breaker. So as much as I love this book, I do use it mostly for the times and whether or not I need to water bath, pressure can. And my favorite canning book is this one. And this is the Amish Canning Cookbook. And I know it's going to be backwards for you, but you can still see what the name of it is. This one is great for recipes and for the times. I love just about every recipe in here. There's some things that I add a little more seasoning or spice to, but for the most part, these are just the best recipes ever. And these are definitely crowd pleasers with my family. I've given them recipes out of here, and my husband calls me a chef. So one thing I will tell you when you're canning, and I'm not here to do tips and tricks on canning right now, but I do want to tell you one thing, is salt is just an ingredient. It is not necessary when you're canning. And I know a lot of people have concerns about the amount of salt that is used in canning, but salt is just an ingredient for flavor. So I cut in half what recipes call for. I'm a huge salt eater. I put too much salt on everything, blame it on my low blood pressure, but keep that salt shaker on my hip at all times. My husband doesn't like as much salt. So like for a quart jar, I usually use half a teaspoon of salt. And that's that. But I also will tell you that I don't put a lot of seasonings in my canned products. I do when I make salsa and those kinds of things. But as far as like pressure canning my stews and my meats and things like that, you have to be really careful with your herbs. Some herbs will turn to a different flavor. I mean, like sage. Sage will get super intense. So when you thought you hadn't added much sage to something, it will blow your socks off. So when it comes to herbs like that, I just dehydrate all my herbs, keep them handy in the kitchen, and add them as I'm cooking or warming up the meal. But we do canned meat here. I can a lot of our produce. I dehydrate a lot of our produce, and I make some. I travel a lot, so I make a lot of just like one jar meals. And then I don't have to worry about Hubs if I'm out on the road or if I'm out doing something. What he's going to have for lunch, he can just open up a jar of something and eat it. And we've come up with some super fun stuff to do that. And just like with the meats, if we are out working in the garden or out working on a project and neither one of us has remembered to lay out something for dinner, we can open up a jar of canned pork and have carnitas in 5 minutes. So we definitely enjoy canning our meat, and we do can just about every meat. So one of the things that I'll show you, let's see, which one are we going to do next? Animal husbandry. So when it comes to chickens, and we've even toyed with getting ducks. Chickens, ducks, sheep, any kind of animal husbandry, we definitely recommend the story books. And Story is the publisher, and they have everything that very well laid out books on all of your farm animals, or most of them. And again, we study these before we get an animal. We don't think it's fair to the animal to get the animal and then study up. We think it's not fair to them. It's not fair to us, setting ourselves up for failure. And it's important to know, hey, you can't feed chickens onions. You can't feed chickens citrus. I know there are people who do, and they do it successfully, and God bless you. But we follow the book when it comes to animal husbandry. We would be devastated if an animal were to fall ill because of a decision that we made that we had read was wrong from someone reputable. So that's just how we feel about it. All right, let's see how big I can get my pile of books before it falls on the floor, because all those gaps you see behind me are all these books. So switching over to bees, I will tell you this one is, we have Beekeeping for Dummies, and that's cute and okay, but it's not really in depth. This is his favorite book, and this is the Beekeeper's Bible. And I had ordered this for him one year for Christmas. I ordered him a couple of beekeeping books, and I ordered his beekeeping suit, and then his little packet that had his smoker and everything in it. I ordered all those things for him for Christmas because for his birthday in January, I gave him the coupon, or basically it was the receipt where I had ordered him his bees. And our kids ordered him the classes, beekeeping classes. So he was all studied up and ready to go before he went to class. All right, Book Mountain is beginning. Dun, dun, dun. So another thing that I talk about in my videos, and I will talk about a lot more, is permaculture. Permaculture is so intriguing to me, but it is a lot of intense studying. When I looked into taking a permaculture course, I was shocked at how much it cost. And I basically went to their website to see what book it was that they were using, and I ordered the book. The book itself was $90. And I don't know what they are now, because that was a couple of years ago. So I got up to, and I'm not going to lie, I got up to the soil part, and I was like, ugh. So I kind of backed off for a little bit. But with permaculture, what you're doing is you are working with nature instead of against it. One of the ways, for an example, if you look at an old town that, or an old warehouse in town that hasn't been used for a long time, all of a sudden there are weeds and ivy, and they're growing up, and it's Mother Nature taking it back. Because if there's a hole there, she feels like, and I'm just using Mother Nature just as an example, she feels like she has to take it back. There's a hole there, she's got to fill it up, and so she fills it up with weeds. So if you take the permaculture principle, where you let everything do its work for you, then I'm trying to think of a good way to explain this. It reduces the amount of weeds. It reduces the amount of water that you have to put into it, because it's actually taking care of itself. So that's where I get a lot of my companion planting from. With permaculture, you are planting in layers. So basically, you're bringing in the beneficial and getting rid of the pests. You draw in ladybugs, and that gets rid of aphids. And how do you do that? Well, with us, we planted cosmos, dill, fennel. We planted all these things last year, knowing that it would bring in ladybugs. And I don't need to order them on Amazon, because if I order them on Amazon, chances are they won't stay. They won't have the habitat they need to stay. So how do I get them to come here on their own? And so that's part of why I study permaculture. I'll get into it some more on some of my other videos, but this is the study guide, and it's Permaculture, a Designer's Manual, and it's thick. It's hundreds of pages thick, and it's a great read. I recommend, just for personal experience. Don't get me wrong, the soil part is very intriguing, but I wasn't a big science person in school. I love the botany side of it, but as far as the science of it, it really wasn't my thing. I was more of a history geek or English. My kids used to call me the English teacher. So I do niblets on the soil part of it. But for those of you who, but I have learned a lot from it, how to like no-till. When you till up a garden, you are basically activating all those weed seeds and saying, come on, guys, it's time to wake up. So there's a lot of good information in the soil portion. It's just, for me, I had to take it in little niblets. So another book that I love is this one, and this is Jerry Baker's Old Time Gardening Wisdom. This guy reminds me of my granny. Just little things that he did. It's he makes a compost tea and then he pours it on, and then he's just got all kinds of little stories in here. Not really even stories, just little, like here's one. I'll just show you one page. See this? See, like this right here is a green thumb tip, and the one that's by it on the other side is saved by weeds. So one of the things that I remember gardening with Granny was, somebody got stung by a bee. So she reaches over, she grabs some weed, she chews it up in her mouth, slaps it on the bee sting, and all of a sudden the bee sting was gone. Well, if only she was still here, I could pump her for all of that. But come to find out, it was probably plantain, and whammo, all that information is there. So reading this book for me takes me back to being with Granny, and I think he's a super cool guy. I would love, there's a lot of people out there who would love to meet a movie star. I'd love to meet him. All right, there it goes onto the book pile. So here is another one, and this is called The New Self-Sufficient Gardener. And one of the things I like about this is it doesn't matter what size space you have. He has little tips and tricks, how to build low tunnels, how to trellis peas, how to build a lot of this stuff yourself, and how to do it a lot yourself. And he recycles and reclaims a lot like we do. And he is a very knowledgeable gardener, and I love that book. And then if you only get one book about seed saving in your entire life, this is the book, and it is called Seed to Seed. This book goes in depth, and it goes in depth about how plants pollinate, and then where the seeds are and how to save the seeds. And it's just it's a great go-to guide if you want to start saving your own seeds. So one of the things that I do is I do save our seeds, because the more I save seeds, that is the more self-sufficient we are. And then it also gives me money to try new things, or where I used to spend, don't judge me, about $300 on different seeds and plants and things for the garden every year. Now I spend maybe $50, and that $50 is for, it looks like I'm going to have to buy lavender. I'm just going to have to go buy lavender starts, because I'm a failure. I'm a lavender failure. And I use a lot of lavender, and I want to grow a lot of lavender. so I don't have to buy lavender for my soaps and tinctures and deodorant and things like that. So I'm going to have to buy some. So the $250 difference that I saved on those will probably be spent on lavender. Just kidding. But but I'm saving a lot of money by saving my own seeds, and I'm becoming more self-sufficient. And as prices on everything go up, and as this food shortage continues to escalate, and I can tell you from someone in the food business, it's getting worse, it's not getting better, especially with the droughts and the floods and all those things that are happening in this year's weather. If you thought 2020 was bad, better hang on to your girdle, Myrtle. So anyway, save seeds. And that's why I always start with heirloom seeds. And then another one of my books that I have, because I don't have my granny anymore, is this one. And this is the Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook. So this book has really taken my tinctures and salves and soaps to the next level, where I've been able to research, hey, this is what lavender does, or these oils are good as antibacterials and anti-inflammatories and antifungal. This has taken it to a point where I know whether or not I need to make a salve or a tincture. I know whether if I put this into soap, if that soap processing is going to alter how effective that particular herb is, or what I need to do to make it effective. So it's a great book, definitely on your must-have list. For if I was telling you to only order one book for that kind of thing, it would be that one. And that's kind of what I did with all of these. I've got other ones. I've got the Encyclopedia of Country Living, and we've got a ton of books here. My son got me a book one year called How Not to Die. And I just looked at him and he said, Mom, it's not what you think. This is right up your alley. You need to read this. And I confess, I haven't read enough of it yet, but it's a great book. It basically talks about eating and things like that. And another one that Hubs got me when we were dating was Eat Your Blood Type. He has a lot of food allergies, so he can't have anything from a cow. He can't have the meat, or should not have, I should say, the meat, the milk, he can't have cheese, he can't have ice cream, none of those things. I have an intolerance to pork. Basically, if you read this book, it is spot on. It talks about how I can eat pasta and not gain a bunch of weight. Now, I'm a fluffy girl. I'll be the first to confess that. But a lot of people can go out for a pasta dinner and jump on the scale the next day, and they're a few pounds heavier. Pasta doesn't affect me that way. There are other things that do. And it talks about, for him, so long story short, they told him he was going to die. They told him he was going to die of stress within a year. And he passed out while at work and was rushed to the hospital. They couldn't find anything wrong with him, so they wanted to put a pacemaker in. And he said, well, is there anything wrong with my heart? And they said, no, but we can't find anything, and we are thinking just better safe than sorry. He goes, I don't think so. So he goes and has all these tests done, goes and sees all these doctors, and finally he goes to a holistic doctor who did the same tests and said, hey, here's what's wrong with you. What happens is his glands all dump, and then he passes out. So he can't have like any kind of refined, which you shouldn't either, I shouldn't either, refined sugars, refined flours, or all those things, because it was making him ill. So I bake all of our bread. I bake it with spelt flour. And then He does eat beef now. He basically he just can't have the cheese, the dairy. That makes him violently ill and his glands dump. But he's still able now, miraculously, he can have a steak every now and then. And I think that's it's still got an intolerance for him, but I don't think there's an allergy there. I think he's more lactose intolerant than he is allergic. But he's not supposed to have spores, so he's not supposed to have mushrooms. He's not supposed to. And so once you start looking at this book and you see all these things that are wrong with him, it goes right into um, what was going on with his system. Because basically, out of all those bacteria that you're supposed to have in your gut, he was down to 4 or 5, and that's why his body just didn't know what to do with things, and all of his glands just would dump. He would pass out. The next thing you know, we're at the hospital. And it took us a while to figure it all out, um, but we did. And that's when we really kicked up what we were doing as far as studying, and because we were both in the food business at that time, really started studying how food was being processed, what was being put in it, how to eat more healthy. And we both got super healthy there for a while. Matter of fact, we got so healthy that we went to a Subway and we hadn't been for about a year. And we both got violently ill just from the phosphates and nitrates in the lunch meat. So we are back on that path for the most part. We don't eat lunch meats. We don't eat a lot of processed food. I cook. We don't eat out much. I have nut allergies. He has his food issues. It's just easier and tastier, honestly, for us to stay home and make it ourselves. We are no fun to go out to dinner with because we have been in the food industry, and if we do go out, we prefer a very tailored dinner. We're not snobs, but we just know the difference between processed, not processed, and some of the things that restaurants are serving. So I've been on here way too long talking to you about crazy things, but I would recommend that you, on days like this when you're tapping your foot to get outside, grab a book, sit down and study and figure out what your next move's going to be and make a plan to get there. Be blessed and be a blessing.